All right, so let's look into the cardiac cycle of the human heart. Now, to start off with the cardiac cycle, let's consider something. Let's consider that all the four chambers of the heart are in relaxed state. And for this relaxed state, we have a particular terminology. We call it the joint diastole. Now, this is not generally possible because we know that the heart is continuously beating, and thereby all the chambers of the heart will be in joint diastole. That is quite not possible. This is an hypothetical situation. Now, we know that the right atrium is provided by the right atrium over here. It is provided by this blood vessel, which is called the vena cava. And the left atrium is provided by the blood vessel, which is called the pulmonary artery. Right? Sorry, the pulmonary vein. Pulmonary vein, that is coming from the lungs. So the pulmonary vein is carrying the blood into the left atrium, and the vena cava is taking the blood into the right atrium. Now the blood enters, and since we have taken the condition to be joint diastole, that is why when the blood enters, it can freely flow into the ventricles from the atrium. And since it is in diastole, it is in relaxed condition, we can say that the tricuspid valve and the bicuspid valve, they are also in relaxed condition. Now, what happens? We have talked about something called the SA node in the last video. So this SA node, what we have seen, it can generate action potential on its own without the requirement of any external stimulus. So it generates the action potential, and the action potential is received by the AV node, which is present near the atrioventricular septum. And also the SA node, although it is present on the right side of the right atrium, the action potential it generates, that is sufficient to cross the chamber and go into the left atrium. This action potential increases the flow of the blood from the atrium to the ventricle on both sides by about 30%. Right? So the blood comes in, the action potential is generated, and the blood gets into the ventricles in both the chambers. Now what happens? The AV node that received the action potential from the SA node, what it does, it transmits the action potential onto something which is called the bundle of His. So these are tissue fibers that are present on the heart, and this bundle of His, what they do, they bifurcate into something which is called the Purkinje fibers. And the action potentials travel through the bundle of His, through the Purkinje fibers, to the rest of the heart. And that is how the heart, it starts to beat. Now, when the action potential goes through the bundle of His, what happens? The ventricles starts to contract. The ventricles starts to contract. And this creates a pressure. And causes the semilunar valves that are present over here and over here. And the semilunar valves, they open up due to this pressure. Now, as the pressure increases, the blood from the ventricles, they go to their respective vessels. That is, if we talk about the vessels, we have already talked about them. The blood from the right ventricle, it goes to the vessel, which is called the pulmonary artery, and the left ventricle sends the blood through the aorta. So the aorta takes out the blood from the left ventricle and gives it to the rest of the body, whereas the pulmonary artery takes the blood and gives it to the lungs for oxygenation. So the blood came in to the ventricles, and due to the pressure, it goes out of the pulmonary artery and the aorta. And this, after the blood goes out, there is a fall in the pressure because the blood is being emptied. And because there is the fall in pressure, the semilunar valves, they close up. And this is why there is no backflow of blood. This is the reason. And as the semilunar valves are closed off and the pressure is released, again, the atrium on both the sides, they contract, and again the cycle will continue. The blood comes in, it goes out, the blood comes in, it goes out. And this cycle is repeated throughout the heartbeat, throughout a person's life. That is why the blood is coming in and it is going out to the rest of the body.